name is Chamindri Tyarachi. As you can see here, we have altogether 6 sessions, 3 today and 3 tomorrow morning. Altogether 18 papers and 3 persons in absence here. Now, there are 2 parallel sessions are going on downstairs. One panel sub-team A at it's not London room, they changed the room to Gregory's room. This is on management challenges and sustainability issues in 21st century. And then sub-team B directly downstairs, Bristol Ballroom, that is sustainability for management education. Now what we have here is sub-team C, sustainability in creating real value. Bristol Ballroom, so we will have the same schedule early in the morning tomorrow, 8:30 to 9:30. Now we have a few papers, but before that I want to introduce session chair, Professor Imran Rahman, and also I want to invite all the panelists to the podium. So please come. Professor Mohammad Tadulkar from North and South University. If you are here, please come to the podium.
And I think management education is really seems to be at a crossroads of how much. I mean, I don't think management education is what it is that it was 10 years or 15 years ago. I think people are finding it too general, and therefore at the workplace not able to use any of that knowledge. And literally, I think they have to retrain all of these people to come in there. So I was wondering if management schools wanted to look at a more learn, apply, do type of model where you focus on certain elements, but then focus on it in a way that you have hands-on experience. Because you see, things like law, things like medicine are an apprenticeship art. That you learn by shadowing, by being there. Management, we haven't developed that apprenticeship art. And it's seeming like the whole aspect of turning theory to practice is just a lot of unlearning at the workplace.
What happened in India, the authority sanctioning the courses is All India Technical Council of India. And before 1 decade, it was very serious to sanction new business schools or new engineering colleges or architecture colleges or pharmacy colleges. But what happened nowadays, so many persons are interested in education. If they have a lot of money, they can build the building and they may get the recognition for starting the courses, but they are not serious. And this is the only reason. In 2000, the capacity of MBA was only 1050 in Maharashtra state. At that time, my business school was there, only 1050. And this year, the capacity is 45,500. Compare only 1 decade, 1.5 decade. It is only growing, and therefore, this is MBA nowadays in India is only value-added degree. Previously, what happened? The graduation is plus MBA was very important. Nowadays, they are getting easily the degrees, graduation. At the same time, they are getting easily the admissions in MBA schools, and there are not some management schools which are run by central government in India. That is IIM, Ahmedabad, Lucknow, like this. There are 14 IIM that are very strict. The students have a package of crores there in India also and outside India also. But in other MBA institutes, the input is very low. They are very
organized business schools and procedures, evaluation system, everything. At the same time, as you mentioned, students are changing, particularly driven by technological advancements. So I think it's a challenge for the establishment. Now, for example, a person can learn about strategy by watching some YouTube videos. now, are there any efforts in both countries? I want to also particularly because your universities organized that way. Effort of internalizing those, let's say, learning by YouTube or something. Or now I see that HBS has very advanced simulation for each, subject. So, what are the effort of making those so-called, mass-scale learning, technological learning? Are business schools are friendly towards them, or internalizing them, or is it considered as a challenge? Both of them will be.
Well, still new. I think. For example, at my university, we are trying to get our faculty to use Moodle. I don't know whether you use Moodle as a teaching aid, particularly because I don't know in Bangladesh we have these hartals and strikes. So we're losing actually class hours. So, if you can use Moodle, basically you can have classes all online. All students get on to the Moodle program, so you can actually have a class. So that has pushed us to get all our faculty to learn Moodle and then subsequently develop other online courses. However, our establishment, the University Grants Commission, they are not willing to, as of now, accept that an online course is an equivalent to an in-class course. So there has to be change in their mindsets as well. Whereas in most of the top universities of the world, there are courses which are completely run online. Not the majority of them, but there are. My daughter right now is studying a course in University of Toronto, where she's doing an undergrad in sociology, where one of the courses is completely online. And it's exactly the same weight, equivalence as a in-classroom taught course. So it's also acceptability. Even parents might think they are, I send my son to go into a classroom, not to sit at home and do a course from there. So I think that has also to change. But I think it's inevitable. It's inevitable that online courses will come in some degree. And also, for example, the use of case studies, for example. That is quite low generally because good quality cases have not been done. Because, again, if you put a case study in front of a fresh student, what will he understand? So most of the case studies are done in the West, in classrooms where the students have already come in with some work experience. So they can relate and understand the case. But if you give it to a complete fresher, how much will that person know about organizational motivation, culture, and other things? So I think increasingly, the positive trend is that some of the better business schools are now requiring students to come in with work experience, and this will perhaps actually change the whole game.
Yeah, you are talking about an online solution, which is really great. But most of us are in the southern, in this Asian continent now. Some people written at home, like they are not communicating each other. They have some sort of phobia. So what is your solution in order to overcome this situation through the online solution? How come you overcome these kind of problems?
Well, most of the online courses don't require oral communication, but it's kind of like more, chat, cyber chat. But yes, in general, I don't know about other countries of South Asia, but Bangladesh, certainly kids are tongue-tied, their communication skills, they're shy, they are scared of expressing their own views on anything because nobody ever asked them. So I don't blame them. A typical classroom where a kid goes in and the teacher just keeps on talking, doesn't encourage any question, any classroom discussion. So it's no wonder that our kids have a communication problem. One of the biggest challenges we face is when we get 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds coming in as fresh, undergraduates, is to overcome that and encourage them to talk and get involved in the learning process. We call that active learning. Without doing that, they'll always be held back.
Four speakers, so that is why we limited for 12 minutes, but now we have the comfort of interacting and going beyond the scope. So thank you, Zumure, for the nice presentation and paper. I expect final paper maybe by the end of next week when you go home for application. So thank you, Professor Vice Chancellor, for a small